Welcome into the Game 7 show! It is Monday, August 12th, something like that. It's not April 11th, but it is almost April 11th, you know, like kind of.
We are like,
retrospect.
we're like 5 months off.
Yeah, but like date-wise in the month, you know.
Not even 4 months. I don't know math.
You don't?
August and April are only 4 months apart. We already got this podcast started off on a bad start, man.
What do you mean?
I don't know numbers. Did you say the wrong date? Did you say April 11th?
No, I said August 12th.
Oh.
And I said it's kind of like April 11th. I'm not Isaac Bugarin, but I'm Will Satler, your host, alongside not Will Satler, but Isaac Bugarin, whatever his name is. It's Game 7 on a Monday, the last Monday ever, maybe.
This could possibly be the last Monday.
Maybe.
But
officially today.
It's likely the last Monday that we produce a set show, because like if we do another show on a Monday, then it's not planned, or it's planned very short. Something big must have happened for us to do a podcast on a Monday after this episode.
Nikola Jokic wins MVP.
We would do a podcast if he wins the MVP. We would do a podcast that day.
The Rockies come back and win the wild card.
That's not gonna happen.
Is Jokic gonna win the MVP?
That's not gonna happen.
I don't think either of those things
The answer to that, both of those questions, is that's not gonna happen. This is episode 11 of the summer. No.
12.
12. This is the 12th episode of the summer. Wow.
You can't get your numbers right, or what?
No way. We've done more than 12 episodes this summer.
Nope.
Huh. Wow. Summer flew by pretty quick.
Flies by when you're having fun.
Traveling a lot, man. Coaching some baseball. If you're listening for the first time ever, this is the Game 7 podcast. I am Isaac Bugarin. He is Will Satler. This is basically just a once-a-week podcast where we just talk about a bunch of sports. Usually it's local sports, and I think this week, because there's not a lot of local coverage going on right now, nobody wants to hear about those garbage Rockies down the street. We are going to cover a little bit more national news for this episode. Big news, though. Really big news for this week. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud.
You're welcome.
What else are we doing?
My Met Media, man.
My Met Media. That's who hosts us, obviously.
New website. Check
Met
it out.
Radio.
Do we got some new kicks? Not really new kicks. New headphones.
Yeah,
new setup. Right the week before the semester starts.
It's nice, man. Nice.
Making moves out here. I want to go back to like the first YouTube video we ever did and like look at the equipment and stuff.
I was listening to our first podcast ever on My Met Media, and it is rough. For those of you guys that have stuck with us through the last, we've been doing this for what? I'd say at least 30 weeks now. You know, this is episode 29. We've been doing this for at least 30 weeks.
Yeah. Correct.
For those of you guys that have stuck with us since week 1, thank you, because our first couple episodes, those are tough, man. Those are tough listens.
It's okay. Nobody listened to them anyway. We kind of gained our followers when you went on vacation.
Yeah, I guess that is true.
Yeah. It's like that.
It'd be like that sometimes, man. Thank you, Met Radio, for hosting us.
I'm sorry.
You can subscribe to us, again, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. I believe you could rate us on Apple Podcasts if you want to give us 5 stars. I don't know if this is this a 5-star podcast? Yes, I'm going to answer that for you. It's yes. Subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
I don't want to be that annoying.
On podcast. It's not annoying. You got to be like that, man. Sometimes it be like that.
They know when the new episode's coming out every Monday. Or now it's going to be every Tuesday.
So they don't know. But if they subscribe, they get notifications straight to their iPhone. If you're on Spotify, you get notifications straight to your
Spotify app.
Straight to your Spotify. As soon as we upload, as soon as I hit that post button, you'll get a notification. Boom, Game 7, and then whatever the title is, straight to your notice.
Well, as always, we want people to interact with us on social media. We've been doing that pretty well for the last few weeks. Is tweeting from our personal accounts. You can follow Will at Will Satler. You can follow myself at Isaac_Bugarin. I love engaging in sports conversations on Twitter and Facebook comments. I find that stuff interesting because people have so many different opinions on sports and stuff that I wouldn't even have thought of. So it's nice to actually have that conversation, you know?
Retweet.
You know, it is nice. Like, for example, the other day I was just talking to Luke Vargas on Twitter about how the Rockies could trade Charlie Blackmon, and we'll get into that later on today in this podcast, but how the Rockies could trade Charlie Blackmon and what they could get back from the Braves and whatnot. You know, it's really nice to engage in sports conversation, so I'll never shy away from that.
I hope not, because you are a sports journalist. That is what you want to be.
I'm a sports analyst and a sports coach. I coach a
So therefore,
youth
you're a
baseball team.
journalist because you're more well-rounded. It used to be you're just a journalist if you did one thing. Now you have to do it all to
Yeah.
be considered a journalist.
Photography, writing, video, social media. What else? Interviews. You got to do that too, right? What else do journalists do?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy.
I'm not a journalist.
Hey, you are. I mean,
I'm an analyst. I do a radio show. I'm an analyst.
okay, dude. Whatever you say, man.
You can email us at game7show@gmail.com if you don't like our takes. Well, even if you do like our takes, you can email us at game7show@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook, Game7 Show, YouTube, Game7 Show, Twitter @_Game7. He is Will Satler, and myself is Isaac Bugarin. Like we said, you can find us on mymetmedia.com. Next week will be the first time we ever go on a Tuesday, so that'll be pretty cool.
It'd be weird, man.
Last episode was... What did we talk about last week?
Sports. We talked about the Broncos. They just get off their Hall of Fame game.
There you go.
We decided to ramble about the Rockies again for whatever odd reason. We talked about Nathan Patterson.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Not
Yep.
Nathan Peterman, but Nathan Patterson. And his new contract with the Oakland Athletics. We had some fan questions, some happy hour. We don't have any this week, unfortunately, but we'll look to bring it back next week.
Shout out to Veronica for hitting me up with the word from last week, Reebok, right?
I didn't even think of, I couldn't remember what it was.
It was
You're just
Reebok.
like, you're like Reebok. I was like, what's Reebok?
That was the magic word, man. We probably won't have a magic word for this episode. We'll wait a couple episodes.
We'll have a magic word for this episode. Trust me.
Shout out to Veronica, though. They're doing really good things over there with the baseball program. She is one of the parents on the now they're 11 years old, I guess, or gonna be the 11-year-old baseball team that I help coach. Doing really cool stuff over there. Being a part of a youth baseball program is pretty cool, you know.
You're really hype about that, man.
Honestly, I'm very stoked about coaching because, like, don't get me wrong, kids have like attitudes and stuff, right? But when they like get that base hit or they hit a dinger, they hit something really hard at the middle, you know, they just smile from like ear to ear. Like that's special, man. Like they have such a pure love for the game at this age that they don't know what it's like to hate the game.
All the ladies out there are swooning over your radio face. They're just like, wow, he has such a good heart. He's going to be such a great friend for me.
Oh my goodness.
I just got friend-zoned on the air by like 12 girls. Every girl that listens to the podcast is friend-zoned you. That's okay, though. You're a good guy.
I'm a good guy.
Nice guys finish last. That's really how it is.
I just miss my dog.
Oh.
You can't see if you're watching the video. My laptop has a sticker that says "I miss my dog."
Oh, I thought you just missed your dog in general.
I do miss my. Well, it's a touchy subject, man.
Exactly.
It's a touchy subject.
I
Miss my dog in general, but
Do you
I'm
miss,
looking at. I've been thinking about getting another dog.
Do you miss Antonio Brown or the NFL?
I miss the NFL, but I do not miss Antonio Brown. Actually, I'm very excited to see the Raiders going up in smoke right now.
Let's hear about it.
So Antonio Brown. Actually, we gotta highlight what we're gonna talk about for the whole podcast. We're gonna talk about Antonio Brown. We're gonna talk about agents for the men collegiate basketball players, which is kind of weird. It's it's not open to women, but it's open to men and the NBA. We're gonna talk about where the Major League Baseball stands at today. We said we don't want to talk about the Rockies, but we do have a couple questions that I got from a couple people.
Please do not talk
regarding the
about the
Rockies.
Rockies. Nobody cares.
And then at the end for the breakthrough, I'm going to talk about Charlie Blackmon and
His worst take as an analyst yet. They might take away the sports analyst.
No, hold up. Because I said it last week and the week before that, and people had messaged me and was like, I don't see the numbers where Charlie Blackmon is so bad. They're like, I only see his numbers where he's hitting 300 and he drove in 100 RBIs in 2017. Like, that's what they see. So I had to go find the stats that prove that Charlie Blackmon is not what everybody thinks he is. He is, in fact, I hate to say it, overrated and a product of Coors Field. And the stats that I show you here at the end of the podcast will prove my point.
I mean, yeah.
He's a great guy.
Exactly.
He's a 2-time Silver Slugger. He's an all-star, but at the end of the day, when you're playing in Coors Field, which has pretty much the biggest outfield in all of baseball, you have to be pretty solid defensively. And that is just something that he's not.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that
Let's
later
get into a conspiracy theory, or at least your conspiracy theory about your favorite player on the Raiders, your favorite team.
Antonio Brown. Okay, so nothing, as I just said a couple minutes ago, nothing makes me happier than seeing the Raiders go up in smoke. Nothing makes me happier because, one, I'm a Broncos fan, unbiased Broncos fan.
Oh, Adam Schefter just reported breaking news. Arbitrator rules against Raiders wide receiver Antonio Brown's grievance to wear his old helmet. Well, what the heck does that even mean? Talk about it.
So pretty much Antonio Brown has filed a grievance against the NFL for basically requiring him to wear a safer helmet. Antonio Brown wanted to wear his old helmet, which actually, so after the 2017-2018 season, the NFL made a policy that said certain helmets were banned from the NFL, but they gave him a 1-year grace period to say, hey, you have 1 year to fix your helmet, or you have 1 year to adjust to a new helmet. And then starting in 2018-2019, you cannot wear that helmet at all. Like, no way you can wear that helmet. So that affected players like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, some big-name quarterbacks who wore a little bit lighter helmets, and now they have to switch. Antonio Brown was one of those guys who actually had a huge concussion in that, a 2017 playoff game against the Bengals, right, where he was running across the middle and Burfict hit him in the head, or hit him with the shoulder, and Brown had a little bit of whiplash and neck bolted back, and yeah, it was just a really ugly scene. He had to be carted off the field, I believe.
Well, if he doesn't get injured in that game, it's probably a pretty good chance the Broncos lose to the Steelers in that next game.
That's the truth. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, I don't think that was 2017. I think that was 2015 or something like that.
2016.
It was Tebow, if I wasn't mistaken. Tebow's
2016. I think it was the end of the 2016 season.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I was seeing if I had it in my notes. I don't have it in my notes. Yeah, he took that big hit from Burfict across the field, and I think it just hasn't been the same since then. But anyways, he has to adjust to a new helmet, and he basically told the Raiders and the rest of the NFL, hey, if I can't wear my helmet, I'm going to retire from the NFL. And basically, if I get hurt with this new helmet, I'm going to file a lawsuit against the NFL for this helmet not being safe. Basically, that's what he said. So that's kind of crazy.
I mean, both sides make sense, right?
Oh, yeah. The NFL's looking out for Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown doesn't want to switch his helmet. That's what he's comfortable wearing. He's worn his whole career. Why would he want to switch now?
It's a lose-lose situation.
Exactly.
But is he a diva now? Do you think CTE is related to that?
It could be. After that big hit, he's really had a lot of incidents. Because before that, he was a very team-friendly player. I mean, I think he always had his bumps in the road with Ben Roethlisberger, but on the field, you could never see that Antonio Brown was a bad guy. And now he's becoming a diva. Right? So, barring that 2014 incident where he was fielding a punt return and he kicked the punter Spencer Lanning in the face. Do you guys remember that? Where he caught the punt return and was running against the punter and just jumps up and kicks him.
I remember that incident. I do not remember that punter.
He's probably not in the league
He's
anymore.
Probably in Australia now.
So that happened in September of 2014, right? But then we jump forward to 3 years because he didn't really have any problems for about 3 years. And then in January of 2017, he Facebook live streams the locker room speech given by head coach Mike Tomlin. And that's kind of a big no-no. You don't record, let alone go on Facebook Live when you have one of the biggest followings in all of the NFL, and you stream what your head coach is saying after a playoff game. Like, to me, that's not cool, right? In October of 2017, he tossed a cooler on the sideline against the Ravens because Ben Roethlisberger didn't target him in that game a lot. Just about 9 months later, in July of 2018, he shows up to training camp in a helicopter. Would you look at that? In August, he appears over 4 hours late to an event at Children's Hospital without any explanation as to why he was so late. In September, so just a month later, he makes a joke in a GQ article about cheating on his girlfriend and mother of his children, saying, quote, "It's kind of hard to keep it in my pants." I don't think he just was not thinking at that point. In just about a week after that, he threatened to beat up a reporter after an unflattering article, and he said, quote, "Wait until I see you, bro. We're going to see what your jaw look like." It's kind of hard to read that. I can't mimic his voice.
Why not?
It's just tough, man. And then days after that, in response to a critical tweet saying that Ben Roethlisberger was the only person responsible for Antonio Brown's success, Antonio Brown tweeted back, quote, "Trade me, find out." I remember seeing that tweet. Because Big Ben, they were saying Big Ben was responsible for all of Antonio Brown's success. That without Big Ben, Antonio Brown would be nothing. And so he said, "Trade me. Let's find out. Let's find out if Antonio Brown can do this on his own. If he could do it without Big Ben, you know?" And then days after that, after a loss to the Chiefs, Brown didn't show up for Monday meetings. He said he was pissed off because we suck. That's what he said. "I'm pissed off because we suck," after losing to the Chiefs. So he doesn't show up to Monday team meetings. And for those of you guys that don't know, Monday team meetings in the NFL are probably some of the most important meetings. Because not only do you talk about what went wrong in the last game or what went right in the last game, but now you're also looking, it's your first chance to look forward to the next game. You know? That's your first chance to get ready to mentally prepare yourself for the next game on Sunday. And then about a month after that, he threw furniture off a 14th story balcony and he almost killed a toddler. So he wasn't really thinking after that either. And then a month after that, he was clocked going over 100 miles per hour on McKnight Road. 55 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. And then he told police that he was late for a team meeting, which he wasn't. So he was lying to police officers, and I don't know if he got out of it or not. I assume he did. And then Christmas of 2018, he repeatedly posted his personal accolades on social media after losing an important game 31-28 against the Saints. So this is really like the tipping point for Antonio Brown, because that is not something you do in a big pivotal game after you just lost. You do not go out and say, "Hey, I just caught 200 yards," you know, knowing that your teammate just made a really tough play that he didn't make a really tough play that eventually could cost you your season down the road. You know, you post your personal accolades. And that is not a team-first mentality. That is not a, "Hey, I am in this for the entire team. I am not a team player." That is what he's telling the entire Steelers organization at that moment when he posts his personal accolades, saying, "Well, I did good. You guys just suck. It's not my fault that we lost. I carried my weight of the team. You guys just suck." You know? And then after that, he skips team practice before a Week 17 game against the Bengals, who, do you remember this one? Where he shows up to the game, he told he wasn't going to play, and then he leaves at halftime.
That was on New Year's Eve.
That was, indeed. Or no, the eve of New Year's Eve. The eve of New Year's Eve. So, and if you guys remember correctly, the Steelers and the rest of the fans were watching whatever game was on TV still to see if they made the playoffs. Because they won Week 17, but they needed, was it the Ravens to lose for them to make the playoffs? Or they needed somebody to lose for them to make the playoffs? And
they needed the Browns to win.
Oh, there you go. They needed the Browns to win in Week 17, and they lost. But everybody was watching the game on the field. Juju Smith-Schuster was watching the game. Big Ben was watching the game. They're all standing pretty much arm in arm, hoping that the Browns could pull it out. And unfortunately, they didn't. But Antonio Brown was nowhere to be seen. He left the game at halftime, and that was really a tipping point for Antonio Brown, where he was like, "Hey, I'm not going to be a Steeler next year. This is the tipping point." In January, he shoved his baby mama to the ground. Days after that, he dyes his mustache blonde. And then days after that, he names himself Mr. Big Chest during a post-workout Instagram live video. So very conceited. Is that the right word? He's very conceited at this point. And then he told ESPN, "I don't need the game. I don't need to prove nothing to anyone. If they want me to play, they're going to play by my rules." And pretty much that's him saying, "I'm not wearing this new helmet." This is where this whole helmet saga really actually starts and really starts to take place. He's telling the NFL, putting them on notice to say, "Hey, I am the star of the NFL. I am the face of the NFL. I don't need the NFL. The NFL needs me." And then his first press conference with the Raiders, he says, quote, "There will be a new standard. There will be fines. I can't do it all in one day, but we're going to change things here." And what does he do? The exact opposite. He becomes a bad example for the rest of the Raiders and that locker room. And then days after he says that, or about a few weeks after that, he says he got butthurt that Juju Smith-Schuster was named the 2018 Steelers MVP, and he posted this on Instagram. Quote, "Boy fumbled the whole postseason in the biggest game of the year," in response. Because he says, "Hey, I was the best wide receiver on that Pittsburgh Steelers roster. I was the best wide receiver. Juju Smith was not. He didn't even come in clutch when the team needed him most. How are you going to name him the MVP of the season? So that is frustrating. And then he posted a text message from Juju when he was still at USC when he asked Antonio Brown for advice on how to be a better receiver. So now he's posting personal messages from years ago before they were even teammates. That's how far he went. And then when he tried to return to Pittsburgh for the first time after his trade to Oakland, he claims, quote, he never got to say goodbye. How are you going to say you never got to say goodbye when you're the one that was traded? You're the one that requested this trade. You wanted this to happen, and now you're going to say, hey, I never even got to say goodbye to my teammates. I never got to say goodbye to Big Ben. Never got to say goodbye to Mike Tomlin. That's not how it works. Come on. You request this trade. You don't want to be – you leave the biggest game of the year, Week 17, at halftime because you're not playing. You're not even there to watch your team in what could be the biggest game of the year. You didn't even want to play. And then come into Raiders training camp, he enters in a hot air balloon, and then – get this, days after that, he reposts to his own YouTube channel the SB Nation video talking about his own drama with Ben Roethlisberger. So SB Nation does these videos on YouTube where they pretty much take all this drama or something, a historical event, and they make a 13 to 15, 17-minute video out of it, and they put all these numbers together, all the stats, all the storyline, really cool graphics, and Antonio Brown reposted that to his own YouTube channel. And then in August, which was just happened at the beginning of this month, he gets frostbite on his feet because he didn't wear proper footwear in the cryo chamber. Is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah.
Cryo chamber. And then he threatens to retire because the NFL won't allow him to wear his favorite helmet. So that is Antonio Brown pre-concussion. He never had any problems like this leading up to this big concussion, leading up to this big hit from Burfict.
It would be post-concussion.
Post-concussion.
Which would be 2014. So it was that 2014 area. So it would have been 2014 when he got hit. Just look up the last time the Bengals were in the playoffs because...
January 2016. That was when this hit took place.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And then 2017, he starts to have all these
Oh,
problems.
So why in the world would they include the 2014 incident and then jump all the way to 2017? That doesn't make any
because
sense.
that's just saying that's an outlier. Saying, hey, this happened before the concussion.
But it's just a random outlier.
It is a random outlier. But it was a very...
It's a random what?
Outlier.
That's not how you say it.
Outlier?
Outlier.
Outlier.
There you go.
Outlier.
Outlier.
Outlier. It's an outlier.
No. It's an outlier.
Outlier.
To be completely honest with you, like, this is the best receiver in football. And a lot of these are just AB being AB. It's players taking responsibility. Yes, you should not be saying it's kind of hard to keep it in my pants. I agree with that. Like, that's not something. But names himself Mr. Big Chest? Cool. LeBron named himself the King.
He didn't name himself that. ESPN gave him that nickname when he was still in high school.
But he tattooed it on himself.
Because you can, when ESPN names you the King when you're 18 years old, you haven't even graduated high school yet. I feel like you have the right to do that. You have the right to say, hey, I'm going to go get a tattoo. ESPN just called me the King. I haven't even graduated high school yet.
Let's be honest here. LeBron is an outlier. So.
Outlier.
No, yeah, there you go. So proud of you. You're learning English now. First it's math, now it's English.
So Tom Brady's still adjusting to his new helmet, and he said today he, quote, doesn't love it either. So, granted, Antonio Brown's not the only one that has to make this change to the helmet, but Tom Brady is one of the best quarterbacks in all of football right now, and he has to adjust to it also. But is it really that big of a difference? The NFL is just trying to keep you safe. At the end of the day, the NFL is just trying to keep these guys safe.
I mean, he makes a lot of damn money. I'm not surprised that he acts like this. It just doesn't surprise me, and it doesn't turn me off. I still think he's the best receiver in football. I'd still want to see him play. Yeah, it's like.
But if you're a teammate of Antonio Brown, does this affect you? Are you reading the press? Are you getting the questions from reporters at training camp saying, hey, Antonio Brown's MIA again. You haven't heard from him in about 4 days.
Well, it also depends on, like, who are you as the teammate, right? Are you Derek Carr, who has had a great relationship with Antonio since the Pro Bowl a couple years back? Are you a player like Emmanuel Sanders, who has a very similar personality? Or are you someone else that doesn't connect? I think that Raiders organization is very like AB, right? I mean,
very
flamboyant. not necessarily bad, but flamboyant. And you can see it, especially through the first episode of Hard Knocks, that he fits in there. Whether it's good or not, he fits in.
He's not even listening to his coach. He's not even listening to Gruden.
How?
Gruden literally told him, "Hey, take it easy at practice today. Don't work hard." And what is it? What is the very next clip that they show?
You don't tell your players not to work hard. That's
you tell Antonio Brown, "Hey, you're hurt. You do not need to be going 100% at training camp in August."
There's a reason why he's the best player in football, and it's because 100% of the time he's working 100%. You don't tell a player like that to turn it off. I don't care.
When your head coach recognizes that he's hurt, if you're hurt, are you going to go 100%?
Yes.
Why would you? No, you're not going to go 100%.
I'm going to go as hard as I can if I want to be the best that I can be.
If you are okay.
You're telling me you would give a half-ass performance August, because you're injured?
It's August.
I don't care what month of the year it is.
Would you rather risk yourself getting hurt in August training camp, or would you rather go 100% in a meaningful practice in October?
Is it smart? No. Is it the competitor? Is it the person that he is? Yes. And I'm not going to dock him for that. He's a competitor. I understand it. He wants to win. Yes, it's not smart, but there's a lot of people out there that aren't very smart that they're winners.
It is not just him he's putting at risk, though. It's the whole team. If he is the best wide receiver in all of football, and your coach is telling you, "Hey, take it easy at practice today. We don't need you getting hurt. We don't need to risk anything. You're already hurt enough as it is. We don't know what it is that's wrong with you. We have no clue. Your foot's hurting. We don't know that you have frostbite yet. We don't want you to run 100%. You can still run, just don't run 100%. Because even if you're running at 70%, you're still probably one of the fastest dudes on the field because you're that good of a wide receiver."
Have you seen the first episode of Hard Knocks yet?
I caught about 40 minutes of it.
It's like a 52-minute video. Why did you just not watch the whole thing?
Because I caught it a little bit late. I didn't get home on time.
Well, it's all over YouTube.
I haven't watched it yet, man. I just caught the last 40 minutes.
I think you should watch it, and then you'll probably understand a little bit more about this situation. Understand where he's coming from. I mean, here's the other thing, right? For the other side of the argument is AB has come from the Steelers where he was playing with Ben Roethlisberger, who wasn't a very good teammate, right? We all know that. They didn't get along together. He is getting all this criticism. Well, whether it's rightfully so is a whole other question, but he is receiving a lot of criticism. He's coming from a team that could not get in the playoffs, right, with him as their best receiver.
The Raiders didn't make it to the playoffs last year either, though.
He didn't play for the Raiders last year. So the point is the Steel, like, he has something to prove, right? It's not like he's just thinking he's just the best receiver. He's just going to win. As long as he says that, yes, he may say something like that, but he has something to prove. He wants to prove people wrong. So I don't blame him for being super aggressive and wanting to make that. And if you watch the Hard Knocks, you hear, like, there is a part where he trains before training camp, and there's a part during training camp where they talk to him. And both times he's going way too hard than what the trainers, the coaches, like you said, John Gruden doesn't want him to go too hard. But you can't turn that off on a certain player, whether that's good for the organization, for the country. It doesn't matter who it's good for. If he cares and that's who he is, that's how he's going to be. And there's nothing wrong with that.
But there comes a certain point where you're putting putting yourself before the rest of the team. You were saying, "Hey, I could get hurt right now because I'm going 100%," even though everybody else in the organization, everybody else, 99 out of 100 people are telling me, "Hey, slow down. Hey, take it easy." And I'm not going to listen to them because my practice in July, my practice in June is more important than an injury that could happen that could put me out for 6 to 8 weeks.
I mean, the comparison here is the Kawhi Leonard situation, right? He played through a season with the Spurs where he said he didn't want to play because he wasn't 100%. And he caught a lot of criticism for that. He was...
Fair enough.
And that's exactly what you're, in the sense, I would say, is what... And I get it. It's not a regular season game. It is the workouts.
It is before week 1 of the preseason. It is before game... This all happened before game 1 of the preseason.
It doesn't matter to me. If that guy's on my team, I want him working as hard as he can.
It's a game in which, game 1, you're playing one series. You're playing your first drive, and then you're out for the rest of the game. You're not going to play. You're just going to watch the rest of the game. You're going to let the 2s, 3s, and 4s, and 5th stringers get the rest of the game. And then week 2, you're going to play the first quarter. Week 3, you're probably going to play at least 3 quarters. And then week 4, a lot of them don't play at all. Week 3 is the closest to regular season action that you'll get. And this dude is working going 110% when he's hurt in June, July, and August.
Okay, good for him. I support it. If I'm the coach, yes, I would be like, hey, dude. And this, again, like I said, you should watch the Hard Knocks episode because that, I think, will broaden your horizons. But
Diva. He's a diva.
Yeah, but he's the best receiver in football right now. It reminds me of this episode from when the Texans were on Hard Knocks. I think that was 2 years ago before the Browns. And the same thing came from Bill O'Brien, and he was talking with the staff. Do I tell this player? I do remember that. Do I tell this player not to go 100%, or do I tell him to be him? Right? Well, as a coach, like, you want that player to be him. I don't care if he gets injured. Like, obviously I care.
Yeah.
But that's not what my mindset is. If it happens, it happens. And again, another comparison here is the KD situation, right? He wanted to play. That was not on the doctors. They probably told him no, but he wanted to play. I wanted him to play if I'm a coach. If he gets injured, he gets injured. That's part of the game. I think that's the key point.
Okay, that is the key point. If he gets injured, he's injured.
You know who else? This kind of goes full circle. As we transition to the NBA offseason and what we've gone through so far. The U.S. men's national team getting ready. I think it's the World Cup for basketball. I don't know what it's called. The FIBA Cup. FIBA Cup. FIBA. FIFA would be football. FIBA is basketball.
FIBA.
B and F.
FIBA. FIBA.
There you go. You're spelling now.
What is it?
Yay. Federal?
What is it? What does FIFA stand for?
You should look it up. There you go. Learning. But consistently, we've heard this summer from players throughout the NBA.
The International Basketball Federation.
There you go. We've heard through players to the NBA, the U.S. men's national team backing out to get prepared for the season, from Anthony Davis to James Harden. Like, the list goes on and on. I could name players all year, all day. And this really it has a lot to do with the offseason, correct? I mean, it's been an offseason. But I think it has a lot to do with Paul George's injury the last time they played in the Olympics. That was 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
2016?
So they don't want to get injured and ruin their season. And this, again, it's just a theme of the injury, or theme of this show is injuries, right? Do you try to play through an injury?
August 1st, 2014.
It was one of those even years. I knew it.
Yep.
So, U.S. men's national team, what's going on there? Like, and I think the key point is CJ McCollum said on Woj's podcast, which is a good listen. You should listen to that. That he had made the decision to withdraw before all these players made this decision, and he had his agent reach out to the men's national team, let them know, and they didn't release it until other people started dropping out. So, I don't think this is necessarily a click thing, but it's more just like players want to focus on something different. And he also mentioned in that podcast that in a year when they go to the Olympics, right, there's a chance he doesn't make that team. Why would he risk his off season and his season for this when he may not even make it next year? It's not guaranteed.
Exactly.
He even said, he was like, if they guarantee me a spot on that team next year, I will play this year. But with players like Anthony Davis, LeBron James, all these players that will probably play for their country.
Lillard, all these guards. Jamal Murray's probably going to play for Canada.
He was going to play for Canada in the FIBA Cup until he hurt his ankle.
But I think a lot of this has to do with the free agents that are signing around the NBA. A lot of players left their former teams. You know, a lot of players signed with new teams, and they need to get, or they feel like they need to get adjusted to their new teams, to their new teammates. They would rather spend a month working out with their new teammates than they would to work on a Team USA basketball team where they're not getting all these reps, where they are splitting the reps with guys that are just as talented as them.
Well, and another thing he mentions is now that there's less players or less high-quality players. I mean, these are the best players in the world in the NBA, but less of the high-caliber players, which means that there's more of a workload for a player like CJ McCollum. He's going to have to play more minutes. He's going to have to try and score more points with lesser players on his team. Yep. So that has a lot to do with it. While granted, it didn't impact his decision, it might have impacted another player's decision. So I think that's really what's going on. And really what I've liked to see so far is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have looked really, really dang good for the men's national team.
Jason Tatum has been a really good basketball player for at least 3 years now, all the way going back to when he was still when he wasn't even a professional basketball player, he was looking really good.
I'll say it now. The Celtics are going to be a sleeper this year with Kemba, with Enes Kanter, with Jason Tatum, with Jaylen Brown, with Marcus Smart.
The thing
Aaron
about
Baines.
the Celtics team is that they're just like a scrappy ball team.
Yeah, especially without
scrappy.
Kyrie now.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's going to elevate them, and I think it's going to step up Jason Tatum's game. I'm
in a weak Eastern Conference at that. In a very weak Eastern Conference that doesn't have Kawhi Leonard. There's no LeBron James on the Cavs anymore.
Kevin Love is there though.
Kevin Love is a real dangerous player right now in this stage of his career. He's a real dangerous player. You guys better watch out. The Cavaliers are about to make a big playoff
From worst
push
to
this year.
first, baby. From worst to first.
You got to believe.
The Bulls are sneaky good.
But in all seriousness, the 76ers lost a couple of people. They did pick up Al Horford, but still,
Josh Richardson.
I still don't see this Eastern Conference being that competitive.
Sixers.
The Heat got better with Jimmy Butler.
They're not competitive. I mean, they'll probably sneak in. I don't want to get into a whole...
Yeah. But everybody's dropping off this U.S. men's national team because of injuries, because they don't want to risk this summer when you're looking forward to a title contending year. This is the year for everybody to be chasing titles. The Warriors are not 100%. They don't have Kevin Durant. Even the Brooklyn Nets don't have Kevin Durant this year. Klay Thompson's not going to be healthy. Are you afraid of a D'Angelo Russell Stephen Curry combination in Golden State? No. You shouldn't be.
You should quote that one. Make sure you hold that one
until
we get to the season.
Let me rephrase that.
That's the greatest shooter of all time, dude. Be careful.
Let me rephrase that. You should not be afraid of that this team will go like 73-9.
Oh,
that's
of course
what
not.
I mean. That's what I'm referencing. Is you should not be afraid that this team is going to be undoubtedly number one. Everybody's going to pick them, go into the NBA Finals without a doubt.
The NBA is wide open. That is 100% the case.
That's what I'm saying. The NBA is wide open.
And so that extra month or so, you make that extra push, and rightfully so. And that
is why.
That's a great reasoning. And one of the reasons for all the turmoil and all the changes so far this offseason is agents. And big news out of the NCAA today, as we'll circle back around. So it was a couple of weeks ago, the NCAA announced a rule that would make agents who are going to represent players in NCAA or collegiate.
They said you could have an agent now, and you could actually backtrack and say, hey, I'm actually going to come back and play college basketball. So that was the first rule, was the NCAA saying, hey, men's basketball players, we'll let you have an agent. We'll let you have an agent, and you can still come back to college if it doesn't work out. If you have a deadline to say, hey, if I don't like my draft stock on May, I think it's like May 11th or something. If I don't like my draft stock here, then I can come back to college and play. I can have an agent. I can test the waters. I can do all these pro workouts. But if I don't like my draft stock, if I'm not getting this vibe that I want to play college, that I want to play beyond college basketball right now immediately, I can come back to college. That's what the rule was, essentially. And then basically the NCAA came out and said, hey, actually, agents, if you have an agent, he has to have, or he or she has to have a bachelor's degree.
So there was this whole list. They had to be approved by the NBA's Player Association, this whole list.
Yep.
But really the rule that really caught people's attention was the bachelor's degree. And that is mostly because the agent in the NBA that's really running the NBA, it's no longer Scott Boras. It's Rich Paul, and he does not have a bachelor's degree. So that really caught the attention of many.
Stop. People behind. Okay. Just keep going.
Okay.
I thought they were trying to get our attention. There's people that were looking inside the studio trying to get our attention. So,
okay. Let's cut that. Make sure that I don't forget to cut that.
But anyways, the NCAA created a rule that said, or basically, Rich Paul was. We gotta cut this entire.
That's on you, dude.
We gotta cut
That's on you. We would have been fine. We would have kept talking.
Well, because I'm looking at you. There's a window right behind you.
I know. I saw the reflection, so I thought it was on that side.
Yeah. So I was looking at. I thought they were like trying to get in the studio or something. Like I was like, no way, we still have the studio, but whatever.
I'll start. We'll have to figure it out.
We'll have to cut it. Do you want to just start the whole NCAA part over?
I mean, I don't even know. You fucked me up, dude. It's on you, Coach. And the YouTube video is going to have that now, too.
We can edit that out.
You can.
So don't post the YouTube video.
Well, how are you going to get it downloaded then?
same way as always.
by downloading it from YouTube.
So don't. When
I
you
can't send it to you. It's too big.
So when you post it, but don't include it on the Met Media
Okay.
post, and then I'll go and find it. And yeah, okay. But anyways,
I was talking.
go ahead.
The super agent of the NBA right now, Rich Paul, does not have a bachelor's degree. And I think that was the biggest thing. It's no longer Scott Boras. It's now Rich Paul. And the NBA players out there saying this is the Rich Paul rule, right? Because they were really boycotting Rich Paul.
That's literally the hashtag that's going around is hashtag the Rich Paul rule.
He said in an article, I think it was with Sports Illustrated, right after this rule came out. It had nothing to do with the rule, but I think this just came out on social media. He did have a story. He was a front cover of the Sports Illustrated this summer.
Yep.
He said, requiring a 4-year degree accomplishes only one thing, systematically excluding those who come from a world where college is unrealistic. Does anyone really believe a 4-year degree is what separates an ethical person from a con artist? So, I mean, this was the news. It was big. Yes, we're excited agents in NCAA, but they're boycotting or essentially taking out some people.
Well, before it was actually a violation of Section 1 of the federal antitrust law. Federal 1 of the antitrust law is it prohibits competing businesses from conspiring in ways that unreasonably interfere with competition. So that basically means that all these other agents can work with college students except for these guys without bachelor's degrees.
Right.
And Rich Paul just so happens to be the biggest agent in all of basketball right now.
And he doesn't have a bachelor's degree.
And he doesn't have a bachelor's degree. So that is interfering and prohibiting competing businesses, Rich Paul, from conspiring in ways that unreasonably interfere with competition because he's not able to get some of these other college athletes. That's his business is recruiting college athletes and getting them signed to professional contracts. And that rule from the NCAA prohibits him from doing his job. And that's...
So today, the NCAA quickly amended that piece after backlash, so there's no longer required for an agent to have a 4-year degree. So this was a big change in the landscape, and now I think it's a much better rule. I think it's all well and good.
Oh yeah, it's very student friendly, and it's a step in the right direction. You know, players should be able to have college agents. They should be able to test the waters out. If they realize they're not going to make it big time, why go pro? You know? Why am I going to risk my entire career? And if I don't have a good outing in April, May, June, or March, April, May.
You know your months, too. Do we need to take
I don't know when the deadline is. I don't know, so I was just saying.
Boy, you're counting your months. March, April, June. There's no such thing as May. We got rid of May.
April, May, June.
We got rid of May.
May is a bad month for the Rockies, so we just stopped counting May. Plus, it snows in May.
It's Colorado, dude. What do you expect?
It snowed in June.
Snows in August.
It just snowed in June.
Yeah.
Isn't that ridiculous? But anyways.
Well, you know when it's going to snow is during the NBA schedule, which was released today. Or at least
there you go.
The whole schedule was released. So some key games for us to look at for the Nuggets. The season opener will be on October 23rd. Hopefully no snow that day. But they'll take on the team that knocked them out in 7 last year, the Portland Trail Blazers, the new look Portland Trail Blazers without their bench. We'll see how that looks. A home opener will be the 25th, 2 days later, against Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns. Then they get the Houston Rockets on November 20th. I feel like they play them in that month every year, and they get smacked every year. So it's kind of going to be... But first look at Russell Westbrook, really.
And James Harden playing together against the Nuggets.
Christmas, they are the late game. It's an 8:30 start in Denver against the Pelicans. We'll have Zion in the building. And 7 of the last 10 games are at home. So this will be key for a playoff push. It was that way 2 years ago when they made a push.
Quick note on this Christmas versus New Orleans. This is the first time that the Nuggets have hosted a Christmas game at the Pepsi Center, or I guess in Denver, in 25 years.
It's a long time. It's older than you.
Yep. Kind of crazy.
We'll be excited. That means there's some stuff going on. You can't say the Nuggets are not a contender when they're hosting games.
On Christmas.
Well, I got to backtrack there because we said it last episode. Just because you're playing on national TV does not mean you're a contender, a la last year's Lakers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it really means something for the NBA to put you on that
Real quick news before we go into baseball is that Dak Prescott turned down a $30 million offer from the Cowboys and is instead seeking a $40 million contract. Dak Prescott, you are not the best quarterback in all of the NFL. You do not need to get paid $40 million. You will not get paid $40 million.
That's very interesting.
You are lucky you got a $30 million offer. You are not one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. Take your $30 million and run.
Let's stay in Houston. Let's stay in Texas, the big Lone Star State. Are the Astros the best team in baseball right now?
Yes, I would say they are the best team in baseball. You should be afraid of them in a playoff series.
Verlander, Miley, Greinke, Cole, Sanchez.
Yeah, how can
their bullpen?
This and Aaron Sanchez isn't even going to get a playoff start. They're going to start four. They're going to.
He's going to come out of the bullpen.
Yeah, they're going to have a 4-man rotation for the playoffs. Isn't that crazy? The Yankees should be afraid of the Houston Astros right now.
Well, and I said it a couple episodes ago. That's like the Yankees are the team to beat in the East or in the AL. But now they match up very, very well. Like the offenses it's a push either way, right?
Yeah.
Rotation-wise, the Astros by a mile, and I think
100%.
the bullpen is the Yankees. So it's a pretty even matchup. Who would you rather have, Aaron Boone or the manager for what's the name of the Houston manager? You don't even know? Come on, man. They've been to the postseason like 3 years in a row.
AJ Hinch.
Yeah,
I should have known that one. I would much rather be the Astros right now. Starting pitching carries you in postseason.
Don't forget about the Yankees. Don't forget about what's going on with the Twins and the Indians. I think the Indians will be a team.
The Twins are basically going to be out of playoffs because they just blew a 10.5 game lead in the Central. So the Twin season is done. I'm calling it right now. Twin season. They're
a game back in the division.
They've got no momentum. It's August. They're playing
2 months left.
They're playing just as bad as the Rockies are right now. I don't want to get into that. The Houston Astros. Every single team should be afraid of the Houston Astros right now. Every single team, because
even the Miracle Mets right now.
Even the Miracle Mets.
Even the Giants.
Oh, when I say everybody should be afraid of the Astros, you should be afraid.
I'm not afraid.
Everybody.
I'm
should
an
be
Astros fan.
Oh my goodness.
Dodgers and Astros World Series.
You have okay.
I'll be biased.
You have to win 4 games out of 7, or basically, so except for the first round, we have to win 3 out of 5.
And the one before
and
that.
You have to face Zach Greinke, Justin Verlander,
Ace,
Wade Miley.
All right.
Who am I forgetting right now?
Garrett Cole, man.
And Garrett Cole. You know, you have to face those guys. That is tough, and you have to beat them 4 times.
Let me backtrack because they're good rotation wise, but if you flip to a team that's in the conversation in the NL right now, the Mets, Noah Syndergaard, Jacob deGrom,
exactly,
Marcus Stroman.
That's another team that you should be afraid if you have to play them in a series or if you have to play them in a 1-game wild card. You should be afraid of the Mets.
Don't get me wrong. Like their bullpen is not in the realm of any of the playoff teams.
In a 1-game playoff, I guarantee you every single starter is going to be available. I guarantee you every single person on that starting rotation is going to be available for a 1-game playoff.
Yeah,
they do. I can guarantee you that the Mets will not have a problem throwing Syndergaard for the first 6 or 7 innings.
You think they'll start with deGrom if anybody?
Well, you could start with just about anybody. Stroman.
DeGrom is the reigning CL MVP.
You could start with either 3 of them, and then if it's close, boom, you could Stroman's going to come in, or DeGrom's going to come in, or Syndergaard.
Edwin Diaz.
Anybody. Edwin Diaz hasn't been that good this year.
They paid him a lot of money.
You paid Wade Davis a lot of money too.
Keep on.
But I can guarantee you that if you have to face Stroman, DeGrom, and Syndergaard in 1 game, I don't think you're going to win.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I do not think anybody could beat that trio in 1 game, let alone a series.
And in the same retrospect, you can't say they haven't been there before. They've all played in meaningful games.
Exactly. I mean, Stroman just took a no-hitter in the World Baseball Classic championship game in Dodger Stadium to, 7 innings?
He pitched on 1 leg in the ALCS a couple years ago. Like, he knows his stuff.
He's an athlete, man. Pitchers are athletes.
Okay. What teams are going to make a late-season push? We know the Mets have made a push. I think the Twins will bounce back.
I don't think so.
Believe in the Twins. I think the Red Sox will make a push. I think they're too far out, but I think they'll make a push The Rays are interesting. I don't know. I think a team in the NL West will make a push for a wild card.
The
Whether
Padres.
it's the Giants,
I think
the Padres.
I think the Padres can get hot. They have a chance.
I think the Padres are probably the best built team in the NL other than the Dodgers right now. NL West other than the Dodgers. So I still think they're a year and a half away. But
the Padres are still 3.5 games behind the Diamondbacks, who are 19 games behind the Dodgers.
no, the Dodgers have won the division. Their
Yeah.
magic number is like 2 games.
2 games?
I'm just kidding.
No, I
It's
think
like
their magic
20
number is
games,
25.
something like that.
I just saw a tweet saying their magic number is 25.
You would know that. You're
You
a
know how many
Dodgers
games
fan.
the Rockies are down the Dodgers right now?
25.
25.
Well, yeah. The Rockies are officially eliminated from the NL West
Gotta love it.
with a loss tonight against the Diamondbacks. They play the Diamondbacks tonight. If they go 39-6 to finish the season, I mean, could make the playoffs.
I think at this point, I'm more concerned that they're going to lose 100 games than they are going to win 90.
How many losses do they have right now?
65.
It's impossible. They'd have to win like 6 games to finish the season. I don't think
We're
that's
on
going to
pace
happen.
for that.
I don't think so.
We are on pace to be a horrible team.
I don't.
We are
This is why I didn't want to talk about the Rockies, because this is how it is every episode.
They're horrible. The Rockies are a tough watch. If you thought this podcast was a tough listen, the Rockies are a tough watch.
Yonder Alonso has been pretty good, though. I could definitely say that. Ryan
That's a
McMahon has
question.
been good.
That's actually a question that I got. Is Yonder Alonso a Rocky next year?
He's probably going to do a Mark Reynolds. He'll probably be the guy off the bench. I mean, they need that bat off the bench.
You think so?
Yeah, why not?
I mean,
They're not paying him a lot of money.
he's produced this year.
Exactly. But has he been better than Daniel Murphy? Not at all. Especially for the money. So I think he might sit on the bench, or at least be that platoon guy off the bench. You have Daniel Murphy at first for another year. Ryan McMahon is probably the second baseman in the future. How did DJ LeMahieu sign for 1 year in New
2
York?
years. 2 years.
So
The question was, can we see a reunion with DJ LeMahieu in 2 years?
wow, that's a good question, and the answer is no.
You think so?
I mean, that just doesn't seem like something he would do. As successful as he's been in New York, I mean, he's got the light.
Honestly, I want to say that DJ LeMahieu is about to get paid big bucks after this Yankees contract, because he proved he can hit in Coors Field, and he's not a product of Coors Field. He can hit at Yankee Stadium.
He's a product of Yankee Stadium.
He's a product of Yankee Stadium. He's a MVP candidate. You know, he's gonna win a Silver Slugger. I don't even know what position he's gonna win a Silver Slugger at, because he plays all over the field for them.
It's a good question.
Can he even win a Silver Slugger by not playing a game playing a majority of his games?
I
at a
think it would
certain
be the
position?
majority of his starts, so it would be like first base. He'd be a first baseman. I think that's what it is, right? I'm sure the
He's
rule is
played
like you
so
have to
many
play
positions.
a
I don't even know
majority.
what positions he's played all year.
But there's definitely been people out there that have won Silver Sluggers and been utility players, right?
Oh.
Like Marco Scudero comes to mind. He definitely had to win a batting title.
To go back to that Yonder Alonso question, he's batting .345. Can you bench a guy that's batting .345
Yeah,
in 18 games?
it's been 18 games. I mean, he's a good platoon guy. That's what we've seen. He's been a platoon,
but
and he's been good in a platoon.
Can Yonder Alonso be a platoon guy when he bats left-handed and Daniel Murphy bats left-handed? There's no use in having both. There's no use.
But there was a use behind Ian Desmond, who batted right-handed, and Mark Reynolds, who batted right-handed. You know, that's a good counter-argument. I get your argument, but there's no use in what...
And that was a year where Mark Reynolds played a lot of baseball. It wasn't necessarily as much a platoon that year because Mark Reynolds was the starter. Ian Desmond came off the bench. And he was also, at the time, he was still getting innings in left field.
Kyle
So it's
Lowry just withdrawed from the U.S. Basketball World Cup team.
Kind of crazy that we were just talking about that.
Another one. Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you. Wajmon.
But still, I mean, I think there's a difference between having Yonder Alonso and Daniel Murphy. I don't think Yonder Alonso is the solution to the first base problem. Because at the end of the day, you still have a really bad first baseman.
Was Daniel Murphy bad this year to you?
Was he good?
Good enough. If this team is better
Good.
pitching-wise, he's going to be a very important piece to that lineup. He wasn't healthy.
For what you're paying him, is he worth it?
The
You're
argument
paying-
of what you're paying with Colorado right now and Jeff Bridich is really irrelevant. They
Well,
overpay
okay,
everybody. That's
fa-
clear.
That's fair.
So
but-
that I don't want to make that argument anymore because we know that they're overpaying their people.
That's fair. Okay, if we're overpaying people, then is DJ LeMahieu overpaid?
By the Yankees?
Yeah, $12 million. Is that overpaid?
I mean, I don't think necessarily anybody is overpaid,
He's getting paid $12 million to be an MVP candidate?
but he's not under Jeff Bridich, right? Jeff Bridich did not overpay for him. That's my point here. This isn't. Yeah.
I think you could have gotten an MVP candidate in DJ LeMahieu who kept him in Colorado, but instead you got Daniel Murphy.
It's a great argument. No, I agree with you.
No? Yeah?
No, I agree with you. But, yeah.
Okay, so what was the next question that we said? Can we see DJ LeMahieu reunion? Okay, I want to say he's going to get paid. I said this before. I want to say that he's going to get paid, but with the new MLBPA and the new agreement that they're going to come to, it is going to absolutely destroy players over the age of 30.
Right? It already has done.
It's already destroyed the careers of Carlos Gonzalez. I mean, you look at Yonder Alonso, who at least he got a shot in Major League Baseball, you know?
Product of Coors Field, man.
Joe Panic right now. You know, Brandon Belt. Okay, so pretty much I'm going to tell you about this new agreement that they're going to have to come to. So pretty much players right now are held to a 6-year period with their current team, right? They're held to 6 years together. They have 3 years of arbitration, and then you could finally leave after those 3 years of arbitration. So if you enter the league as if somebody like Carlos Gonzalez, who entered the league when he was, 23, 24, and now he hits free agent market at 30, and now he's 33, 32. I couldn't tell you his exact age. Why would a team pay for a 32-year-old Carlos Gonzalez when now you're seeing kids enter Major League Baseball at the ages of 20 and 19, at 21, when they're hitting the free agent market at 26, 27, 28, you know? And you have 3 to 5 years to be a prime baseball player, you know? So I'll pay a 28, 29-year-old outfielder, I'll pay him $12 million before I pay a $33 to $35 million Carlos Gonzalez.
You're not wrong.
You know? So this new arbitration or this new agreement is going to absolutely destroy older players, and DJ LeMahieu is going to be right in the prime of that. You know, he's coming off probably, assuming he puts up good numbers next year. He has to put up good numbers next year to get a contract, because he's at that point in his career where he hits that peak and it's all downhill from there. You know, where nobody's going to want to pay a 33, 34-year-old DJ LeMahieu another $12 to $15 million.
Do you think DJ's in it for the money, though, or do you think he's in it to win a title?
Do teams that want to win a title want to take DJ LeMahieu?
Yeah. I mean, that guy can play every single position on the field, at least in the infield, and he can play it at a Gold Glove level. He is a plus 330 hitter. He sprays the ball over the park. He adds home runs. He drives in runs. He's unselfish. I mean,
so is he gonna? But that doesn't answer. Is he gonna get paid? Like a MVP candidate should get paid?
Not at all. And I don't think that's an argument at this point. I don't think anybody thinks that. But I do think that he is going to get signed, and he's going to get his money he's worth.
If he is still producing like an MVP candidate next year, he would be lucky to get $10 million. Because you look at what the Nationals did with Juan Soto and Bryce Harper. I'm not going to pay Bryce Harper $30 million to hit 265, but I'll pay Juan Soto $510,000 to hit 330. You know,
rightfully so, man.
And he's 21 years old, 22 years old, and you're going to have him until he's 26, 27 because he entered the league at that young of an age. You know. So and that's happening all across baseball right now. I mean, you could even look at David Dahl.
He's going to get paid.
He's going to get paid. If he can stay healthy, he'll get paid. He probably is going to get paid regardless of the injuries. He's going to find a way to get paid.
He's still on the DL, right?
Yeah.
The IL, I apologize.
The IL. He's going to find a way to get paid. You know, a team will pay for him because he is that young. He has that much potential to be a great athlete, to be a great baseball player.
He's an all-star.
You know, but can you say the same thing about a 33-year-old Carlos Gonzalez who could put up similar stats maybe?
What about a 33-year-old Charlie Blackmon?
Oh, don't get me started on Charlie Blackmon.
Well, let's get started on Charlie Blackmon.
All right, the breakthrough. That's actually a very good bridge to the breakthrough. It's a great song to introduce Charlie Blackmon.
Who sings it? The Outfielders?
The Outfielders? The Outfield.
There you go.
The Outfield. So Charlie Blackmon just turned 33 years old on July 1st, right? He was 24 when he made his major league debut with the Rockies, so that means he's been in the league for just about 8 years. Okay. He's currently in the middle of a 4-year, $77 million contract that he signed in 2018, which also includes player options in 2022 and 2023. So basically, this means that he could potentially make an additional $70 million over the next few years as he approaches his mid-30s. I mean, we're talking 34, 35, 36 years old, and we're going to pay this man $70 million. Okay? So keep that in mind as we're paying Nolan Arenado just under $30 million a year. And this man is going to make $70 million. $70 million in the last 2 years of his contract. And he's 34 or 35 years old in these 2 years. I just want you to keep that in mind as I tell you these stats here pretty soon. But not only does he have that 2-year player option, Blackmon also has a 15-team no-trade clause that can make negotiations complicated and getting rid of him a little bit harder. So pretty much if we want to trade him to any of these 15 teams that he has on his no-trade clause, which are all of these really good contenders, because that's what you do. You block the teams that are contenders so that way you can get more money. You know? Because that's who's going to trade for you are the contenders. So he gives them a no-trade list of, here's 15 teams that I don't want to play for, but if you trade me to them, you have to pay me another $5 or $10 million to go to this team. He put that in his contract. So it's going to be hard to get rid of him. So I'm reluctant of Charlie Blackmon because of his offensive numbers, his defensive numbers, and the cost of his contract, like I was just saying. Offensively, Blackmon's numbers are inflated by playing in Coors Field, and defensively, he's just not very good. I mean, I feel like the Coors talk of him, hey, you play at Coors Field, inflates his numbers. That's going on around everywhere, you know? Everybody says that. It's the Coors Field paradigm. Did I say that right? I wrote it down, but I don't think I said it right.
I'm not even going to try.
So hitter-friendly Coors Field, Blackmon's stats are very impressive. I mean very impressive at Coors Field. He's batting .418 with 17 home runs and 40 RBIs. This is entering today's game, by the way. He's batting .418, 17 home runs and 40 RBIs at home, okay? But away from Coors, totally different hitter. He's still above the Mendoza line. Don't get me wrong, he's still above the Mendoza line, but he's batting .252 with 7 home runs and 25 RBIs. Get this. He's played in 15 more road games than he has at home. So he's had 15 more games, and he still hits less home runs, less RBIs, and a lower batting average. That's a difference of 166 points in his batting average, a difference of 10 home runs, and 15 RBIs. Again, 15 more games on the road than at home. Okay? That's 52 plate appearances. I don't know if that really matters, but 52 plate appearances that he's had on the road, and he still has less numbers. So to put it in perspective, nobody else in baseball has this big of a difference in their home-road splits as bad as Charlie Blackmon does. I mean, Nolan Arenado, he's hitting .354, 12 home runs, and 49 RBIs at home. But on the road, he hits .264, 14 home runs, and 38 RBIs. That's a difference of 90 points in his batting average. He actually has more home runs on the road, so he has 2 more home runs on the road than he does at home, which is crazy to think, and a difference of 11 RBIs. So again, Blackmon has a difference of 166, 10, and 15. Nolan has a difference of 90, +2, and 11. That's a big difference.
True.
Right? Trevor Story, 307, 17 home runs, 42 RBIs at Coors Field. On the road, Story's 259, 9 home runs, and 24 RBIs. That's a difference of 48 points in his batting average, 8 home runs, and 18 RBIs. Again, Blackmon, 166, 10 home runs, and 15 RBIs. Do you see the big difference in numbers there also? So keep in mind that Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story are both pretty solid defensively, as Arenado's won a Gold Glove every year in his major leagues, including back-to-back Platinum Gloves, and Story's going to be a perennial Gold Glove candidate for the next 6 years also. So, they're both pretty solid defensively with better offensive numbers that aren't as bad as the home road splits as Charlie Blackmon. But if you even want to look at Charlie Blackmon compared to other outfielders that are MVP candidates, Christian Yelich and Cody Bellinger, Yelich has a difference of 54 points in his batting average compared to home and away. Bellinger has a difference of 21 points in his batting average. Again, Charlie Blackmon, difference of 166 points. That's more than 3 times Yelich's and 8 times of Bellinger. That is a big difference in home road splits compared to these two outfielders in baseball, right? And also, Charlie Blackmon hasn't showed up in the postseason. Granted, we've only played 5 games in his history with the Rockies in the postseason, but still, in those 5 games, he has 2 hits in 19 at-bats. That's a batting average of 105. 2 RBIs and 2 strikeouts. Very unproductive, given that 4 out of the 5 playoff games have been on the road. You know? I couldn't tell you which games he had the 2 hits in. I assume he probably had at least 1 at Coors Field.
They only played 1 game there.
Exactly. 4 out of 5 have been on the road. Arizona, Milwaukee, and Chicago.
I think he had a hit in the Chicago game.
Okay, so you went 0 in Arizona, 0 in Milwaukee, 1 hit against Chicago in a game that went, 14 innings?
Yep.
And 1 hit at Coors Field. So again, he just has not showed up in the postseason in his career. Outfield, this is where things get really interesting because he makes just about any other outfielder look like a gold glover. Charlie Blackmon's defensive metrics are really bad. So take this into consideration. 0, the stats that I'm about to give you, 0 is considered the average number by these 2 metrics. So 0 is basically saying you're 15 out of 30. You know, you're average. You are right where the middle of the road is. You are 0. So RTOT is a metric in which a player is given a score on the number of runs above or below average the player was worth based on the number of plays made. The next one, RDRS, is a metric which calculates the number of runs that player has saved at his position. Okay? So again, both have an average score of 0. Charlie Blackmon's career RTOT is negative 32. The average is 0. His career RDRS, negative 51. The average is 0. Also in center field, he's played most of the games in his career, is his weakest defensive position by far. There, he had a career RTOT of negative 25 and RDRS of negative 48. Again, the average player is at 0. In right field, he has an RTOT of negative 8 and an RDRS of negative 6. Again, that's just pretty much this season, where the average number is 0, and he's played right field predominantly most of this season. All of this season, he's played right field. He hasn't played any of the position besides that this year. Both of these put him towards the bottom of the list in terms of being an efficient player in Colorado and Coors Field's spacious outfield. Coors Field has basically one of the biggest outfields in all of baseball, right? And he has not been good defensively. So why are we putting him in right field where he is absolutely one of the worst outfielders in all of baseball according to these metrics? These 2 very important metrics. It could be that Blackmon make a serviceable left fielder for the Rockies, but where he has an RTOT of actually +3 and an RDRS of +3, so he's a better player in left field because of the less space that he has to cover. And I've said it before, he doesn't have a long throw, so that's where he saves a lot of runs. You know, he doesn't have the long throw to third, the long throw to home, the long throw to second. It's very short throws, very short left field. He's got to cover a big left center field gap. But if you got Garrett Hampson or David Dahl out there in center field who can cover most of that, you don't have to worry about it, right? So, anyways, the cost of having Blackmon in left field to take up space and not be a productive hitter on the road is still very unattractive because he's still a very bad hitter on the road. You know, if he's playing 162 games at Coors Field and he's hitting 400, by all means, he's worth every penny. But that's not the reality of it. He's playing 81 games at Coors Field, 81 games on the road where he's going to hit just around 250. And is that worth it? And then you're going to have a negative RTOT and a negative RDRS? I don't think so. That's not really worth it. So I don't want to disparage Charlie Blackmon. He's a 4-time All-Star, twice won the Silver Slugger, and he's had an impressive career for the Rockies. But he's come to an age where his mid-30s where regression has started in most players, so the Rockies are essentially paying for past performance more than future performance at this point in his career. $70 million in 2 years, and Nolan Arenado is going to get Nolan is getting paid basically $60 million over those same 2 years to be a better hitter, to be a Gold Glove player at third base, and you're paying him less money. Charlie Blackmon might be overpaid, might be a little overrated at Coors Field.
Correct and correct. But what I will counter it is when the contract was signed, when he signed the contract, it looked like a great contract.
Oh, did 100%.
He was an all-star. He was an MVP candidate. He had one of the best. He had the best season of a leadoff hitter in MLB history.
Yep, that is very true.
And you are correct. The numbers really show that Coors Field was his. It was Coors Field that was making those numbers. But I don't see like. It just in retrospect, your takeaways are correct. He's a 4-time All-Star. He's won a Silver Slugger. Coors Field has a good impact on that. It's just hard to, yeah.
I get he's a fan favorite. I get it, you know. And I was reading tweets from people saying, "Hey, if we trade Charlie Blackmon, I'm not a Rockies fan." They're saying I'm a Rockies fan because of Charlie Blackmon, which I don't understand it, because Charlie Blackmon is such a liability in right field. He's such a liability in center field.
He's good in left.
He hits really good at Coors Field, but are they watching the games on the road? Are they watching the 81 games a year on the road where he's going 0 for 4, 0 for 5, 1 for 4? You know, ground balls to second base. You know, ground balls to first base. Are they watching those games, or they only see him at Coors Field where he's going 3 for 4 and 4 for 5 every game?
Yeah, your argument is completely valid. There's nothing in that says that Charlie Blackmon is any better than what you said. But, I mean, again, we circle back to this argument. The Rockies are not in the position that they are in today because of Charlie Blackmon. They're in this position because of their pitching, right? He played well for a majority of the year. A lot of those games were at Coors Field, but he played well. Who cares where you play? Who cares if those numbers are better? That's good. If your numbers are better at home, your numbers are better at home.
You should be comfortable at home. You're playing 81 games a year there. I hope you're comfortable at home.
Right. But I think now that they've struggled and their pitching has struggled, I think this is really more in the light that he hasn't been good. If the Rockies were in contention right now, nobody would be saying Charlie Blackmon is not who he is. He's garbage. And that's really what happens when your whole team struggles.
When the whole team struggles, you find the highest paid player and you see what they're doing wrong. And it just so happens that Charlie Blackmon's one of the highest paid players on the Rockies. His defensive metrics show that he's one of the worst players in all of baseball in the outfield. His home road splits show that he's one of the worst hitters on the road in all of baseball, compared to hitting over 400 at home. You know, a difference of what did I say, 166 points in his batting average, something like that. 100 and where did I just lost the 166? Yeah, 166 points, 10 home runs and 15 RBIs, and he's had more games to do it. And he has less numbers.
The numbers say that I am the highest paid host on the Game 7 podcast, though.
Numbers never lie, man.
That's facts. Until they get just taken off the website.
Oh, that was a dig.
No, not really.
But anyways, Charlie Black, like, he is a fan favorite. I get it. You know, his jersey is selling a lot. Chuck Nasty, especially these player weekends jerseys, they're going to sell a lot of Charlie Blackmon jerseys. They're not even that nice. But at the end of the day, the product on the field is what matters to fans. You know, Coors Field's a very pretty ballpark. People go to the game just to see Coors Field. You know, they don't go to watch the Rockies a lot. The Rockies are the worst, one of the worst teams in the National League, and we're still going to probably sell out. We're still going to put 35,000, 45,000 butts in seats. But the product on the field, the real fans that are watching 162 games a year, that are listening to 162 games a year, have to at some point recognize that the product on the field is not that good. The product on the field, when you're hitting 250 on the road compared to over 400 at home, has to be recognized. It has to be recognized that you're one of the worst players in the outfield. You know, I've said it before, I wouldn't be surprised to see Charlie Blackmon transition to first base at some point in his career. I don't know what that was, but I mean,
I think that means enough of Charlie Blackmon. I think I'm tired of hearing about Charlie.
Real quick, if Daniel Murphy's contract expires, so Daniel Murphy's contract expires next year, could you see Charlie Blackmon moving to first base after that?
That's a long ways away. There's a lot of things that need to happen.
We're only a year away.
In baseball time, that's a long ways away. I mean, I think a lot of things are going to need to happen.
It's not like he can get any worse. He's already one of the worst defensive players in all of baseball. Can he get any worse playing first base?
I don't know. Ask Ian Desmond.
Exactly. He went from being the worst first baseman to now all of a sudden he's a plus. He's actually a plus player.
Well, we do know that Charlie Blackmon was a pitcher in college, so maybe he could help out in the bullpen.
Oh.
This end from we talked about it earlier. Antonio Brown. While I disagree with the arbitrator's decision, I'm working on getting back to full health and looking forward to rejoining my teammates on the field. I'm excited about the season. Appreciate all the concerns about my feet. Hashtag always a fight. Hashtag represent. Hashtag it's bigger than me. It's very unlikely that Brown will appeal the decision, a source told ESPN's Adam Schefter.
Real interesting way to close out the show there. Antonio Brown.
Talking about feet?
Talk about Antonio Brown.
We opened the show with Antonio Brown.
So we got to
The Antonio Brown Show.
Will, tell me, what did we learn today?
Charlie Blackmon is better at home than on the road. The NBA is going to be very interesting. Antonio Brown's a dog. He's the best player in the NFL, the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's going to continue to be that way with the Raiders. I support him wanting to go 100%. Yeah, that's what I learned.
Well, thank you, Met Radio, for hosting us. As always, they let us come into the studio, use the equipment. Brand new headphones today. Actually, really cool to get these on. Really, the sound is great.
I could hear you breathing half the show, and that's why if you're listening, you're gonna hear me like mess with the mic a couple times. Especially during that.
It just picks everything up.
You were like here, and then you start talking about Charlie Blackmon, and you're here, and I was like, whoa, you got to be back here. And then,
whoa,
producing, man. I'm producing.
It sounds, in my headphones, it sounds like I'm talking the same no matter what. I sound quiet in my headphones still. I don't know what it is, but you sound loud in my headphones.
I just got that radio voice. You got the radio face, I got the radio voice.
I don't know what it is, man. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. You can subscribe to us, rate us 5 stars. Help us get a little bit more viewership here and there. Viewership has been up 700% in the last few weeks.
Let's get on the charts, man.
Yeah, we're trying to get on the charts, man. Top 100. You can hit us up with the questions for the next podcast. Interact with us on social media. I will never turn down a tweet. I will always reply. Maybe, depending on what it is, within reason, you know. You can email us, game7show@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook, Game7Show. YouTube, Game7Show. Twitter, @_Game7. You can follow Will @Will Satler. You can follow myself @Isaac_Bugarin. And for everybody that is looking for a pet, we want to remind you to please go to the shelter first.
You looking for a pet?
I am.
Let's get a pet. Let's go to the shelter. We're going to the shelter. So the Rockies game tonight. We're going to the shelter.
Let's go Rockies, man.
We'll see you next week on Tuesday.
Tuesday.